So if you're just joining us, welcome. If you'll just introduce yourself in the chat, I don't know who's here. Um, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. Uh, I did send the link to Graduate Together, which you can see in Canvas. I hope that's a thing that you're interested in and that you participate in somewhat. It seems like a pretty cool alternative as far as things go. Not ideal, but and yeah, I'm just chilling. I'm going through your class cake readings and stuff and annotating and responding to those. Um, yeah. That's okay. Hi, Kaylee. Good to see ya. No worries. Um, it's pretty slow. There's not much to cover. I'm happy to be here for whatever questions you have, and you all have busy lives. So I'm here to help, and if I can't help, that's okay. If I can help, I'm here. So no worries. So just so y'all know, next week, I think, or pretty soon, the district's going to send home a form to your parents asking you and your parents if you want to do like pass, no grade, or graded for semester two. So you'll have that choice. Just keep in mind, there are different implications for that depending on what your colleges want, if you're planning on going to college. Um, and uh, yeah, I'm happy to answer some of those questions if you have any. I don't have all the information yet, but I have a general idea of kind of how things are going to proceed. So, for those of you who are here, I'd be really curious to hear what you think about the Graduate Together thing that's being put together. My heart really goes out to those of you who are seniors. This is a really scary thing. So Andrea asked, how are you submitting grades for UW Green Bay quarter four, and what assignments are being graded for that quarter four grade? Great question. I'm submitting grades directly to UW Green Bay, so I'm in touch with a faculty liaison and stuff, and I'll have like a form to fill out basically. So it's not through Power School; it's a separate thing. Um, and the grade for quarter four is essentially going to be the unit 4 exam. I feel like we did something else, and then the Petit Prince readings, like those reading checks, the discussion checks, and then there's going to be a final thing that I'll explain maybe tomorrow, maybe in tomorrow's class, for what you'll be doing for the Little Prince. We won't be finishing Little Prince, but I'll ask you to submit kind of a voice recording, and like many of the other things we've done so far since distance learning, it's going to be like a collection grade, like a completion grade. Um, so yeah. So Andrea asked, how are you submitting grades for quarter four? So if you're not already aware, UW Green Bay does need a grade for quarter four. So that work that you're doing right now will be going towards that grade. So it's a little different from Verona's policy. Um, and so it's important that you keep up with the work. And if you're struggling, I spoke to somebody today who has every reason to be struggling right now. I can try to lighten the load a little bit and be flexible because this is just a really wild time. Um, so I'm really happy to make that happen if that needs to happen. But again, I do have to submit that grade for UW Green Bay. So and I want to make sure y'all get those credits, those retro credits. Does that answer your question, Andrea? Bailey's here. Yay. Hi, Bailey. Okay, so Andrea, okay, so up. Oh no, Bailey. So Bailey said it didn't show up and then it made me make a YouTube channel. No, that's no good. That's weird. I'm sorry. I hope you can delete the YouTube channel or something later. That's too bad. Um, Andrea said, I haven't been able to finish some of the discussion responses in time and get locked out of the assignment. No worries. I can kind of extend that for you. What's happening is they're not being entered into PowerSchool. So essentially everything that will improve your grade is entered. Everything that doesn't improve your grade is left blank. And I can put it in as comments or something. The discussion posts for me, like I really have loved seeing y'all engage with it, and I think it's really helpful. I'm excited to see what your thoughts are. I hope it's been helpful for y'all too. Um, but ultimately, it's not essential. I think it's a good thing. I think it could help you understand the readings, and I think it could help you engage with it on a deeper level. But I wouldn't, if you're struggling, if it's a source of anxiety, if it's a burden, if you're having trouble keeping up with it, and it feels like it's just too much, please don't worry about that. But Andrea, if you want me to, I can extend the availability of those discussions because there's no reason um, they should be closed. There's no reason to close them. So I'm happy to open them back up so that you can chime in. Um, I really, the more people that participate, the better. I'm really excited about that, and you know, I'm happy to have any engagement at all. so, so I'm really thrilled to see whatever y'all have to offer. And again, it's a beautiful book, and it's not ideal this situation, but I think the thing that we've set up with Class Kick and Canvas discussions are pretty darn good. You're entitled to disagree with that if you feel differently, but I'm pretty happy with how things are set. So to answer your question, Andrea, no, they do not go in as zeros. There you go. Kaylee said, "We'll do the discussion like Ronan. We'll do the discussion like Ronan. We're responding in Latin from now on." Awesome. Yeah, strictly Latin. And then instead of 5 points, I'll give you a V. Sure. Wouldn't hurt me to brush up on my Latin a little bit. Why not? So yeah, if you're just getting here, we're just kind of checking in. This is a great space to have just an informal check-in. I'd love to hear how you're taking advantage of the weather if you are. Um, if there have been any struggles, or any high points, that's always awesome to hear about. I always love hearing about how y'all are doing. I do miss meeting with y'all in class. Um, and if you're just joining, Andrea asked two good questions. How are you submitting grades for UW Green Bay Quarter 4? And that's the answer to that is I'm submitting it separately. It's not through PowerSchool. Um, it's something where I have to like email them, I think. And what assignments are being graded for that quarter 4 grade. So those assignments are the Unit 4 exam, the Petit Prince reading and discussion posts, and then there's going to be a Petit Prince submission thing next week that I'll explain tomorrow in class. Tomorrow's like recording, where you'll do an audio recording submission. You'll respond to some questions about the Little Prince in French, and it'll be like a completion grade basically. Andrea also asked, I haven't been able to finish some of the discussion responses in time. Can I make that happen? Sure. And what I said was I'm happy to open those back up and to just leave them open because there's no reason they should be closed. I'd love for y'all to participate as much as you can, um, but also know that it's not a priority. If it's giving you a lot of anxiety, if it's something that feels really like a burden on top of the reading, please don't don't let it be. Don't worry about that. Those are strictly, I am grading those for like completion, but those are strictly for like um, to support you in your reading and understanding of the text. Kaylee says, "Have I watched the last season of Clone Wars?" No. I started the Clone Wars a while ago, and I didn't really get into it. I hate to say. I think I started it a little after it had first come out, and the animation kind of threw me for a loop where I just didn't love the animation, and it kind of. But I've been meaning to watch it because I've heard such good things, and that the main character Ashura, I don't know exactly what her name is, but and the idea of uh, the gray is really cool to me. So I've been meaning to kind of look into that. My little nephew's really into The Mandalorian, so I need to watch that too. Um, but I've been watching Demon Slayer, which is a really cool anime. I just finished that last night. Highly recommend it. Bailey says, in the reading yesterday, I did not get that he was explaining why he was writing the book. So what did he say that I missed? Yeah, that's a great question. So let me go to the reading. Um, Class Kick is having a little trouble. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so looking at the class kick, if you go to the reading, so this chapter has kind of two parts, I think, or even three parts. There's one part that's a little shorter, where it's kind of explaining that the little prince comes from a different planet, talking about how that asteroid was discovered. But then it kind of, the narrator kind of goes off on this tangent about how adults always need everything explained to them, and that's a really rich theme that I've really tried to kind of repeat and really encourage you all to kind of keep in mind as you read. So that's kind of the second part. And then the third part, which is on slide 3 and 4, the third part is the narrator saying, Car je n'aime pas qu'on lise mon livre à la légère. Ah, subjonctif. Je n'aime pas qu'on lise mon livre à la légère. J'éprouve tant de chagrin à raconter ces souvenirs. I feel so much chagrin, so much kind of melancholy in um, retelling and recounting these memories. And so he starts kind of explaining why he's writing this book. Um, and I look forward to going over it in the lecture tomorrow. But that's, if you're looking to kind of understand why he's writing the book, um, you can look to that. So it's page 20 in the book, or page 3 of the Petit Prince, lecture 5. Uh, Car je n'aime pas qu'on lise mon livre à la légère. I don't want somebody, I wouldn't like somebody to read my book lightly or to take it lightly. I feel such pain in kind of telling these memories and sharing these memories. It's already 6 years ago that my friend left with his little sheep, um, and so on and so forth. So I won't go too much farther into depth. I'd like to leave you that room to kind of do some detective work and try to understand that part. Um, but rest assured that I will go over that tomorrow. So you'll get a more definitive answer tomorrow. And if you're really frustrated and unsatisfied with that answer, you can let me know, and I will not. I'm not going to try to uh, irritate you. I will give you that answer if you'd like. We can go through that. That's fine. But I would like to. I would prefer to leave that for y'all to kind of explore, because it's a pretty special, pretty powerful message. I don't know, Bailey. I've read the. It says he left. Says he left with his sheep. Um, so Bailey says, "Did the little prince die?" And I said, I don't know. It says that he left with his sheep. Um, and then Bailey said, Katie said, "Ope," which is a good. That's about right. Or is he just bummed? You going to the garden? Okay, have fun. Miss Punzel's going to the garden. Um, Bailey says, or is he just bummed for a regular reason? My genes from my grandma are showing. Okay, sure. I don't quite follow, but that's okay. Uh, uh, and Kaylee, he left this world. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to talking to y'all after having read the whole book. And that's something that's going to happen into the summer. So, really, I don't expect y'all to stick with me for that, but I will. I'm 110% here for that. I'm 110% here for continuing to give y'all these little class kicks and not Canvas. It won't be on Canvas, but I can send out links to class kicks into YouTube videos through email or something. Um, is he just bummed for a regular reason? So he talks about it. He talks about um, so I suppose I'll just then answer your question. So again, on page 20, we've got, which is the page 3 in the class kick. Car je n'aime pas qu'on lise mon livre à la légère. J'éprouve tant de chagrin à raconter ces souvenirs. Il y a 6 ans déjà que mon ami s'en est allé avec son mouton. Si j'essaie ici de le décrire, c'est afin de ne pas l'oublier. C'est triste d'oublier un ami. Tout le monde n'a pas eu un ami. Et je puis devenir comme les grandes personnes qui ne s'intéressent plus qu'aux chiffres. C'est donc pour ça encore que, etc., etc. Okay, so I've already gone through and kind of translated those first few sentences where he's like, well, the narrator's speaking directly and saying, I really don't like, I don't want somebody to take this book lightly. It gives me great pain to tell this story. Um, it's it's been 6 years now that my friend left with his sheep. S'être allé, to leave, is a very common construction. S'en être allé, s'en est allé, etc. Just to leave. If I try here to describe him, it's in order to not forget him. It's sad to forget a friend. Not everyone has had a friend. Not everyone has had the fortune of having a friend, and I might become like the grown-ups who are only interested are only ever interested in figures and numbers and models and percentages and stuff like that. Right, Bailey says, with an imaginary sheep. So yeah, and it's not just an imaginary sheep. It's a box, right? So, um, so yes. First of all, it's an imaginary sheep, and we'll find out why the little prince needs a sheep. That'll become clear, I think, in the next chapter. Um, very sweet. It's such a sweet, tender story. And it's not even a sheep, right? It's a box with holes in it so the sheep can breathe. And you just imagine that there's a sheep in there. Um, and so in this whole book, it's basically, a lot of it is essentially like in praise of imagination and kind of showing how powerful imagination can be and how essential it is for really appreciating life and appreciating things like, you know, closed bow constrictors and things like that. So, Kaylee, to come back to your question, have you finished the last season of the Clone Wars? And were you pleased with it? Were you happy that they opened it back up again and kind of tried to finish it? Do you wish they'd left it as it was? And again, I'd really love to hear what y'all think of this graduate together thing. Again, I think it's a great initiative, but I'm also not a senior right now, and I cannot begin to imagine the kind of frustration and anger you might be feeling and stuff. The best thing, so Bailey has asked, what's the best thing I've done this week? It's hard to say. It's all pretty cool. It was Miss Punzel's mom's, well, it was Mother's Day, and I made really good lemon bars, very, very, very tart lemon bars with like a cup of lemon juice, which made them super tart. Um, and I was really impressed with those, and that was pretty cool. Um, I don't know. How about you, Bailey? What has been the best thing you've done this week? I know that we just went on a bike ride through the Arboretum, and it's really beautiful. Like, I just love the sun. It's so nice to have the sun. Um, the weather as it is right now is kind of like a California, like where I'm from in California, California summer, where it's not that hot. It's almost chilly sometimes, but it's sunny and beautiful. Kaylee said, I have finished Clone Wars. I cried really hard. I think it was a great ending, and it's heart wrenching. And I was about to say, my dad hates the animation style too. Funny. Okay. Yeah, so maybe it's a dad thing. Dads are allergic to the Clone Wars animation. Um, Gosh, I'm glad you cried, I guess. If that's sometimes that's a good thing, I think. I'm glad you really liked the ending. I think one of the hardest things about writing stories is ending them. Um, I think ending them is probably even harder than starting them because there's so much to bring to a close, and how much do you decide to close thoroughly, and how much do you want to leave open ended? So I'm really glad to hear that because I know a lot of people really care about Clone Wars and it means a lot to them and stuff. And so it really means a lot to me to hear that. Oh, that's great that they nailed the ending. Um, yeah, and it's frustrating. It's too bad that the animation style, bugs me and your dad. Uh, I wish that wasn't an obstacle, but what can I say? Whoa. Okay, so Bailey said that Bailey mowed for 5 hours or so, and it was very satisfying, though maybe a little chilly. Wow, 5 hours. Jeez. See, for me, growing up in like the city, like that's bananas. Like I grew up in like a suburb, and so you mow for maybe half an hour, like, but then you run out of lawn. I cannot imagine mowing for 5 hours. That's wild. Wow. And Kaylee said it was so cool. If you do finish Clone Wars, you should watch Rebels, though Ezra is kind of annoying because there's some cast characters from the Clone Wars in it. Whoa, 5 hours. Yeah. Okay, okay. I should watch Rebels. Okay. So it sounds like Rebels is another series. I'm not familiar with it. I don't watch TV that much. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing as always. And I've started a book, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers. It's a book about the South. It's published in 1920, I think. Um, Mowing the sheep field. Oh my gosh, Bailey. Mowing the sheep field on a tractor. Wow. This is just you. I cannot tell you how much you're blowing this city kid's mind. Wisconsin. Jeez. Wisconsin's so different from where I grew up. Oh, Kaylee. Okay, so Kaylee says, yeah, Rebels take place 15 years after the end of Episode 3. Whoa, cool. Interesting. Yeah, that I've always thought that was cool. Like I really like I liked Rogue One a lot. Rogue One was one of my favorite uh, Star Wars movies, just period, I think. Uh, and I think that's a really interesting place. Like, okay, so the Empire's been defeated. What now? What now? And that's not. It's a pretty delicate thing. Well, good job, Bailey. That's awesome. I'll bet the sheep are thrilled. I'll bet your parents are thrilled that you mowed it. Um, when you're mowing, do you have to really listen and pay attention? Does it require a lot of like attention, or were you listening to a podcast? One thing I've really been enjoying that's bringing me a lot of joy right now is a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies, and it's a D&D podcast, and it's really goofy. It's very much not school appropriate, just so you know. Um, but as a 32-year-old with a dad bod and a white dude, I guess, who likes Dungeons and Dragons, it's pretty awesome. And it's just really funny and strange. So I highly recommend that. That's just been giving me a lot of joy. Um, but Bailey, another interesting tidbit. I woke up at 9:30 yesterday thinking that it was Saturday. Yep, that's yeah, yeah. What is time? What does anything mean? Yeah, it's all a blur. Um, I think yesterday I thought it was Thursday, and I mean, what does any of it mean? Yeah, like that sounds entirely appropriate. And you got to wonder what's Garfield's life like now. You know, if Garfield wakes up and hates Mondays, is he really confused? I mean, is maybe Garfield's day to day hasn't changed that much now that John's home more. But for a cat whose identity is structured around lasagna and hating Mondays, you got to wonder what is it like when Mondays don't really exist anymore. Asking those deep questions. Hey bud. Yeah. So Bailey said, I listen to podcasts and music. You only have to listen to make sure you're not going over a rock. It's really scary to move over hidden ant hills. Was doing some earth moving with those. What's scary about mowing over hidden ant hills? Is it scary because you have compassion for the ants and you're worried about those, or are they really big? Um, Again, you're talking to somebody who has no frame of reference at all. I'm a complete. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like Kaylee's confused too. And then Kaylee, I do not know the memes about John kidnapping Lyman. Lynn? Is it Lynn? No, I should. I hesitate to look into that, but I will look into that. Okay, so Bailey said they are mounds hidden under thatched grass. Interesting. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I guess that would be scary. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So Kaylee said Lion Man. They're kind of creepy. Just heads up. All right. Cool. I I follow a page on Facebook which is ominous positivity memes. So creepiness is definitely on brand for me, but as long as it's not, you know, prejudiced or anything, I guess. I'll check it out. Um, Bailey said the shawl that I'm knitting is officially as tall as I am, maybe a little taller. That's awesome. Wild. Wild. Yeah, I think with this whole thing, people are going to come out of the pandemic with all kinds of stuff, skills, probably, but also interests and knowledge that they didn't have before. And some of it's going to feel really useful, and some of it's not going to feel so useful, and that's okay. We're all kind of just coping. Bailey says random things that don't fit the summer temperature. Yes, yes. And Andrew said I have become a very good baker and cook. Awesome. What have you been baking or cooking? That's really really cool. Yes, I've been doing a little bit of that myself. I'm gonna try to start a sourdough starter. Miss Punzel really wants yeast, and there's none in stores. And I did a sourdough starter a few years back, and I think it worked out okay, but I never really saw it through. I ended up just tossing it, I think. I don't know if it really was as successful as I'd hoped. So I'm going to try again. King Arthur flour is supposed to have really good instructions, so I looked those up, and I'm going to start cultivating some yeast. Cultivating a sourdough starter. Mostly, so Andrea says mostly scones of all kinds, bread and muffins, cookies. And I made a Cajun meal, and lots of pasta dishes. Cool. Yeah, pasta dishes are good. It's nice. I grew up on pasta, and if you can make a good, pasta, then you can just add whatever to it. I make really good homemade pesto, and that's fun with just some mushrooms. That's one of my favorite pasta dishes is just mushrooms with like tons of pesto and pasta. Scones are really cool. Scones are a really good thing to know how to make because they're so good fresh. Help use lots of butter. I think it was Julia Child who said, "When in doubt, add more butter." Um, Bread is really ambitious, though. That's really cool. Um, so, Andrea, have you been using like dry active yeast, or have you been making your own sourdough starter, or unleavened bread, or what? And do your parents cook and bake and stuff? Because I know that for me, my dad didn't really cook, but my mom did a lot, so I was really following my mom a lot with cooking and baking. That helped. Oh, yum! Banana blueberry muffins. I should make some of those. I've got some corn muffin mix, cornbread mix, which is really good. It's like super basic cornbread mix, and it's really good as a muffin. Cornbread muffins with blueberries or something is really good. Yeah, and like I said, I made lemon bars for Miss Punzel's mom, and they were really, really good. What did y'all do to celebrate Mother's Day? Did y'all do anything special for your moms? Um, Andrea said I use active yeast or make quick breads. That's cool. Homemade, okay. My dad likes to make homemade pizza. Very cool. Yeah, yum. That's great. And yeah, both your parents are working, so you're still making a lot of dinner. Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that you've stepped up and you've been making a lot of dinner. I'll bet they really, really appreciate that. Kaylee, I don't know what language this is. Okay. Okay, we're going over Kaylee's head here with baking. Kaylee, go bake some stuff. It's fun. It's chemistry. It's exciting. It's delicious. Butter, 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 flour, egg, and sugar. Just go wild with it. Um, That's great, Andrea, that you're making a lot of dinner. I really, have wondered about that. Like, what do your lives look like now? If your parents are working, how have you stepped up? If your parents aren't working, have what's that been like? And I'm not really interested in prying, I guess, but like, I think that's really cool that you've stepped up to help out with dinner. That's probably such a huge help for them, especially if you have other brothers and sisters and siblings. Um, I'll bet they really appreciate that. And it's a really important skill to have, to be able to cook and feed yourself with healthy, fresh food. And yeah, Bailey said we didn't really do anything on Mother's Day, but we had a virtual baby shower for my cousin. Very cool. Yeah, that's sweet. Oh my goodness. Bailey said one of my cousins got Oscar from The Office to make a video for the parents to be. Definitely draw it up in a moment. Sweet. Oh, that's so funny. That's great. Yeah, the actor who played Oscar from The Office. That's funny. I loved that whole storyline. I just watched The Office a couple years ago for the first time, thanks to Miss Punzel. And I loved the whole storyline with Oscar dating, I forget what the woman's name is, her husband, and how awkward it is. It's so funny. It's so funny. Such iconic characters. Uh, Kaylee sounds jealous or surprised. I'm not sure. That is pretty cool. Yes, Michael Scott was a trash can. Yes. I was so surprised at how there's so much misogyny and homophobia in that show, and I was so surprised at it. When we first started watching it, I was like, I don't know if I can watch this. Like, it's just too much. I was like, this is terrible. Um, but I was surprised at how part of what made it somewhat tolerable. I mean, it was not great, but and it was a different time, I think. Part of what made it tolerable was just that Michael Scott was so oblivious. Um, yeah, no, and that's the thing is Michael Scott was a trash can, but he was well intentioned and utterly oblivious and just um, like he could not help himself. And it was weird because like he couldn't grow, which is strange. Like I guess he grew a little bit maybe, um, but I think it's so interesting that he's this character that would never work in 2020 or 2019. Miss Punzel and I are watching Veep right now, which I highly recommend. It's on Hulu. It's an HBO show with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's best known for playing Elaine on Seinfeld, and it is awesome. But it's similar in that it was, I think, 2012, and the humor has not aged well in a few ways. There's a lot of um, kind of low key homophobia and a lot of misogyny, and just really, it's very vulgar for sure, but it's really, really funny. Kaylee says that's true. And Bailey says the real trash can was Robert. Yes, Robert California. Yeah, yeah, Robert California, and I forget the other guy. There was another guy from who ended up playing an Anchorman, who is just they're just monsters. They're just terrible, terrible human beings. Terrible, selfish. It's really interesting. Funny. No, not Will Ferrell. I thought Will Ferrell's character was actually kind of funny. Um, I don't know the actor's name, and I'm kind of okay with that. Uh, it doesn't matter. Again, it's kind of this tongue-in-cheek misogyny that's not as tongue-in-cheek as it should be, and yeah, it's okay. It's not that deep. Just to say, that it's interesting to see how poorly some of it has aged. And that's okay, that it can still be this funny thing and something to enjoy on its own merits, but with kind of like understanding of like, okay, uh, we know better now. we This would not fly, but uh, it was still borderline acceptable then. We've got about 5 minutes, less than that, but roughly 5 minutes. Um, yeah, probably Packer. It's probably Packer, sure. Uh, so if you've been kind of holding out on a question that you've got, this is the time. Uh, Otherwise, again, I will post a discussion tomorrow morning. I'll probably record it tonight. We'll see. Um, and I'll talk about, especially what Bailey had asked, which is why is he writing this book? Um, but yeah, if you have questions, now's the time. Katie says it would be funny if Michael was called out immediately after being misogynistic or something instead of the office just sitting there awkwardly. Yeah, well, would it be though? I feel like that's how the humor operates. The humor operates with this kind of like David Kochner, sure. Yeah. I'm not gonna Google it. But Bailey, yeah, sure. If it's David Kochner, sure. Uh sure. Um Yeah, so Kaylee said it would be funny if he was called out. I don't know if it would be though. Like I feel like that character just can't exist. I feel like that's at least the way Michael Scott existed because if he's called out, it becomes this, a very important episode of The Office where we tackle misogyny. It's like no, 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 that's not what that show's there for. And then Bailey said, I think it was just really accurate at the workplace. Some trash people work at Park Printing. Yeah. And Kaylee, I guess what I was going to say is like, I think that's part of the humor. And part of the sadness too is because that's often what happens, right? Is people see stuff and they don't say anything. Like, oh, it's awkward. It's awkward. And oh, he's the boss. He has a lot of power, so he could fire me. And so I'm not going to say anything. Or, oh, it's just awkward or oh, everybody knows, Michael's a trash can, so whatever. Um, and so I think that's part of what made it funny was that people didn't say anything, but also I don't know if the shtick would work if people called him out. I'd be curious. I would watch the heck out of it, and I'd be super curious to see how that experiment goes. But and yeah, Bailey, I think it was just really accurate to the workplace. So some trash people work at this printing place. Yeah. Uh, Again, like part of the reason I think people found it so funny was that they've had so many similar experiences with similarly kind of incompetent people in power, incompetent men and white men in power, I should say, um, and just generally ignorant people, really ignorant, really oblivious people. Um, and I think that's good for its own thing. Like I think making that a thing and poking fun at it can be really helpful. That's like satire, right? Satire kind of points out the cracks in the system and helps us laugh at it so that we can then change them. So I think that's a pretty powerful power of humor. Um, but it definitely is it's awkward humor, awkward humor. All right, y'all, I'm going to start wrapping this stuff up and uh, get kind of the lesson together for tomorrow. I'm going to run a D&D module right now. Um, and I look forward to uploading the lesson for tomorrow. Please, please, please email me with your questions. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for those of you who showed up. It's really good to hear from y'all. I definitely miss being in class with y'all. And I hope you take good care of yourselves, of the people you live with, of each other, that you're staying in touch. That you check in with each other, you check in with your friends. This can be a pretty hard time. Um, so yeah, take good care, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow, posting a video. Au revoir.